This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Today's episode of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast is brought to you by The Athletic. Premium coverage for passionate Detroit sports fans. Listeners of this podcast can save 30% off the first year of an annual subscription. You heard me correct. You can save 30% off the first year of a great Detroit sports website. They got writers covering all the Detroit sports, great in-depth features. James Edwards is doing great work over there. Had a great in-depth feature regarding new head coach Dwayne Casey. Even an article regarding how the Pistons plan to reconstruct Stanley Johnson. Don't miss out. Adam, Jason, Vito, myself, we read The Athletic every single day. Don't miss out. Become a subscriber and save 30% off. Why not? Visit theathletic.com/DSP.
Oh my God!
Welcome into episode 38, another glorious podcast, very much like Bobby Roode. Another glorious DocNJock Wrestling podcast coming at you. Today, we've got a whole bunch to discuss. We've got a smoke show coming back to the WWE, as well as a ton of injury news and updates to get you caught up on. Of course, DocNJock have to sit there and give our predictions for Extreme Rules, as well as review the highlights and lowlights of Raw and Smackdown. And it appears that the UFC is becoming very, very WWE lately. But of course, the one, the only, the guy who helps me with this podcast, he is my tag team partner. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. I like what you did there.
The glorious DOC is about to join you. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Man, I love talking wrestling, even if Raw and SmackDown just came up a little bit short in terms of enjoyment. I'll be honest, I peeked into poker. The World Series of Poker is going on just a little bit more, but the wrestling caught my attention. But I'm glad that when we have takes, when we spew them out there on Twitter, on our Twitter page, at Detroit Podcast, a lot of the great wrestling podcasters in town say the same thing. And I think we're in the loop. We're one of the main podcasters in town that talk WWE wrestling, and I always enjoy the opportunity. Let's kick this bad boy off, son.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you were able to take in the UFC on Saturday, but
oh, hell
Brock
yeah, I did.
Lesnar
Hell
showed
yeah,
up.
I did.
Brock Lesnar showed up, and he was challenged by Daniel Cormier, and it's believed that they're going to fight in November. What'd you make of this?
Well, let me tell you, it was a fun Saturday. It was a date night, and the wife was like, you know what?
Does she like UFC?
Well, she likes hanging out with me, and she sees my passion for sports.
She likes hanging out
So,
with me.
since you
love yourself some of you.
Since you dissed me for the USPBL All-Star Game, I took her, and we had a good time. And then I'm like, oh, the UFC's going on.
I did not diss you.
No, it was good.
My mother needed me to help her with the rental house.
No, that's good. I threw out the first invite. Now it's your turn now to invite me because I know you drink with the fellas, and I consider myself one of the fellas, and actually would be a good time to see what kind of shit I spew when I go to the bar. But that's here nor there. After the USPBL All-Star Game in Utica, we went to a great establishment, and we watched the UFC because I was hoping for two great heavyweight fights. We got one. One of them was one of the worst. Nagano, after he lost to Stipe Miocic, he went to a fight against another fella, and he just didn't throw a punch. For 15 minutes, two dudes basically just danced with each other, and it was horrible. It was literally one of the worst UFC heavyweight fights in all of history. Joe Rogan didn't even walk in to do the post-match presser. It was that abominable. It was horrible. Right after that, DC, Daniel Cormier comes in and knocks out Stipe Miocic to become the champion, and it was shocking. Most people didn't think so, that was going to take place, and all of a sudden, who's there before the match? Brock Lesnar's there, and he's got this presence, and he shows up, and he gets called out by DC, and yeah, a lot of the UFC purists were like, it was staged because Brock Lesnar comes in and cuts a semi-promo and pushes DC. It looked a little bit staged, but in the end, you got to do it. You know that the fight game is about hype, and you know he was going to do it. It was funny to see Brock Lesnar swear. It was funny to see him in there. But you also
It was
remember,
awesome to see him cut a promo. I didn't realize the guy could speak.
And
he doesn't talk in WWE.
here's the thing that gives Brock Lesnar legitimate credibility. Dude was an All-American wrestler. That's where he came from. He is a wrestler, and he was the former UFC champion. And he has the ability now to market himself between two organizations, UFC and WWE, who are both utilizing this guy for attention because of his size. He is a draw, and he's a draw in two sports. So if Brock Lesnar is trying to leverage himself against the WWE, he's doing a great job of it. The problem I have, though, is the fact that he has a history of doping. He's back into the USADA program or the anti-doping situation they got going on there.
Quick update on that. It sounds like he's been doing that low key.
Yeah.
Like he's been in USADA for quite some time now.
Exactly.
And he's going through the process of getting reinstated.
That part's dangerous because if that dude who's a monster already with his size is doping, that makes him scary. He could legitimately hurt somebody. And that's what you want, is you want a guy that fights clean in the UFC. But, I'm a big UFC guy. I try not to miss a lot of the pay-per-views, but it's harder these days when you got a family. So I'm in the loop online. But the way the UFC is going right now, they need a star. They need a draw.
They need something.
And DC versus Brock is the next big thing. Unfortunately, John Jones messed it all up for everybody with all his drug use and unavailability. But it should be a good fight. I'm okay with Brock Lesnar. I'm not a UFC purist that's just like, we got to keep this, above board and no gimmicks and stuff like that. Look, business is about money. And when you do that kind of stuff, you draw eyes. They damn near got already 1 million buys already if they fight each other.
So, because you're really into UFC, is it bad that he can just show up? Like, he's been suspended now for over a year. Is it bad that he can just show up and he gets a title shot instantly?
He is. Look at his size, okay? Just look at him. When you are the former UFC,
a freak show.
Yeah, when you're a former champion, you know you have credibility. Now, is he an all-around great athlete? Is he a number one contender? No. But unfortunately, he's got something else that sometimes puts you at the top of the line. He's got it. People will buy the pay-per-view. People will watch him. If you're asking me, is it pure? No. Is it legitimately, something that the UFC should consider doing? Yeah, of course. It's all about money. Remember, the UFC is a legit sport, but it's also a business. To be honest, if Brock Lesnar would pack LCA, the Pistons would sign him. No doubt about it. Anybody would sign him. If he would pack LCA guaranteed, night in, night out, and he'd be a draw, they'd name him assistant coach.
What does it say about Brock Lesnar in the WWE, though? This guy hasn't showed up on WWE television, and I can't even tell you how long. It's been forever. He hasn't defended his belt.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah. This is horrible.
Because in the wrestling world, technically, I know that
every 30 days you're supposed to...
Every 30 days in the wrestling world, you're supposed to defend your title. And so
he hasn't defended it in like 3-4 months.
It doesn't matter to him. He's all about showing up for six figures, and anywhere there's a paycheck, he'll show up. That's what it is. And I definitely would assume it rubs the boys the wrong way. But in the end, Brock Lesnar doesn't care. He cares about his bank account. He cares about marketing himself. All credit to him. He's got the ability to do it, and he's got two organizations that want him. Right now, though, here's the problem. If he doesn't fight in November, let's say he's got to go to January, when is he going to show up? I mean, you would think it'd be SummerSlam. When is he going to show up?
Right.
There's rumors that he's not going to show up even to SummerSlam. That would be a catastrophe where one of your big four pay-per-views, one of your belts is not defended, but that's the way the WWE has marketed him as an attraction. But unfortunately...
How awesome would it be if WWE stripped him of his title?
That'd be great.
That would be great. Just just stripped him of his title, and like he still has, according to Dave Meltzer, he still has one more appearance left on his contract.
Okay.
What if they stripped him of his title, right? Because he refused to show. He refuses to show, but he's going to go do UFC. Gets done with UFC, comes back for some title shot because he claims that I never lost my belt. I want my belt back. And he goes and he fights you for the fruit roll-up strap.
Yeah. I don't know how they're going to play this out, but I do think they deserve to put someone over, and I do believe at some point, the next match that he has, he'll drop the belt.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, well, let's transition into Raw then. So what is not being billed as a number one contender match, but I think we both agree that it is the number one contender match for the fruit roll-up strap that Brock Lesnar totes around. What did you make of this brawl that broke out to open Monday Night Raw between Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns?
Instantly, I texted you and I said, man, it's like deja vu. They did this with Brock last year. And Dennis Farrell said the same thing. WWE pull-aparts are dumb. They're stupid. Mm-hmm. And it lasted too long. It didn't hit home for me. I just was like, they opened the show with Bobby Lashley and Roman Reigns in the back. And Bobby's like, go out there and call me out. And then he comes out there. It's just, you now... He's not a believable badass to me.
No.
You got to show it in the ring. I mean, it seems like an act to me. Right now, Bobby Lashley, to me, hasn't sold me on the fact that he's a badass. I think that maybe the average fan might believe it, and people really like the fact that Roman jumped over the top rope. That was a cool spot. For me, I'm saying, look, you have the same 3 or 4 gimmicks to hype up matches, and you're going through all of them with every single angle that you have. I texted you and tweeted on our Twitter page. I said, I was this week I was kind of in the mood for the contract signing. It's like you gotta find new angles, new ways to hype up this. Bobby Lashley, Roman Reigns. I guess the silver lining would be if Bobby Lashley goes over. Who needs to go over in this one?
I think Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, you have to, right?
I think at this point he needs it most. Like you talked about it. Bobby Lashley physically looks like a badass. I mean, like he is jacked. He's chiseled. The guy is ripped and shredded. He's fought MMA. He's fought in Bellator. He's got a winning record there. The guy's done it. He's just being booked poorly, and I think the way that they have him, the way he's scripted, it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It doesn't come off as genuine, doesn't come off as authentic. I think what needs to happen, and this is something that if you watched any Impact, I don't know, maybe last year, 2 years ago, the one thing that they did with Bobby Lashley, because they tried to find his niche, like to really get him over and to get him to connect with people, Bobby Lashley was really good as the angry heel. You just kind of let him go out there and you let him challenge people. Like he can't go out there and just cut a promo talking into the microphone. He's got to be face to face with somebody. So you put him in the ring with somebody else, give him the microphone, and you just kind of let him go. Just say, hey, these are the points that we need to get across. Again, bullet points. I really wish WWE would go back to bullet points instead of overly scripting everybody. Say, look, you need to hit this, this, and this, and you can do whatever you want, talk about whatever you want, say it however you want, just do it. And if you do that with him, and you make him the guy who's he brings all the animosity, and he's challenging other people, and he's telling you why he's the badass, it works. If he's not doing that, it doesn't work.
Then we move forward. What did you think of Alexa Bliss and the kendo stick? She took it to Nia Jax. What'd you think?
So this is interesting for me, all right, because it looked a little bit authentic. There is some heat here, and
I'm going to whoop you with this kendo stick.
Backstage, Nia Jax, the last couple weeks, has garnered quite a bit of heat, not just with WWE, but with Alexa Bliss. At one time, these were two best friends.
Why?
Recently, Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss have got rid of all of their social media posts together, and Nia Jax has even gone out and called Alexa Bliss out, and people have made references to Alexa Bliss sleeping her way to the top.
Oh.
And Nia Jax has favorited and retweeted stuff like that. So there's a lot of heat on Nia Jax right now, and I think this is a legitimate friendship that something has soured in. So I think there was a little bit of realism there. I don't think it was just, oh, hey, let me whip you with a kendo stick. I think this was cool. You want to say I'm a garden tool? Bet. I'm going to whip you with this kendo stick. So watching Raw, it's been brought to my attention, right? Just watching the way that they have booked certain people. I really feel like WWE has lost faith in guys like Bobby Roode and Finn Balor. Do you agree or disagree?
Well, it's one of those things where we can make the safe assumption they're being underutilized. Mm-hmm. They're in angles that they don't need to be in. Bobby Roode is a legitimate badass heel that's not being booked properly. Finn Balor, since this whole all-inclusive Balor Club thing has started, really hasn't been the same guy since he won the Universal title. It just seems like they're maybe taking their time with it, and they're letting it simmer a little bit, letting him reestablish himself, because he was white hot on fire. But unfortunately, like in life, when you go out with an injury, it just takes all the steam out, and they haven't been willing right now to put him right back at the top. And unfortunately, it's not just Finn Balor. There's also a pecking order. Right now, Braun Strowman's at the front of that pecking order, and you got other guys that are kind of, in terms of their size and delivery and experience, just a little bit ahead of Finn Balor. And I think rightfully so. And for you and me, I know we could say that maybe Finn Balor and Bobby Roode are not at the right angles, but I don't think that they should jump the line in terms of where the pecking order is. I like, if you had the WWE top rankings right now and you said who's the number one contender, I think, Bobby Lashley, Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre, they're in the mix. That should be the elite class right now for the titles. Bobby Roode, Finn Balor, they're in that upper echelon, maybe with Seth Rollins. So I just think they need better angles. They need to be in bigger matches. That's all. They got to find angles that, the problem is, though, when you have an angle and you have two people involved in it, they got to be at the, right place at the right time. They both have to kind of bring something to the table. Now, Finn Balor and Bobby Roode just haven't been given good stuff to work with. And like we're hearing now from WWE and Daniel Bryan on these podcasts, these guys always are in the ear of creative. And unfortunately, creative has a vision for these guys. And if you're in that mid-card situation and WWE says we need mid-card talent and Finn Balor and Bobby Roode are that, unfortunately, we don't want to see it. But that's their slot right now until they make creative believe that they're over.
See, I don't need them to jump the pecking order. And I agree with you. There is a pecking order. What I need is you need to let them do a better job in the ring, right? Like, if you're going to pair them up with somebody, like, I don't need to see Finn Balor and Constable Corbin. I don't need to see it. I'm done with it. I'm good with it. I don't need it. I don't want it. I would watch Bobby Roode, Finn Balor. Like, if they were to fight each other, I would watch that. I think that would be interesting, I think a heel turn for both these guys would be extremely helpful. And you don't want to turn everybody heel because then you've got no faces to go against. But if you turn Bobby Roode heel and you make him what he was in NXT, I think it instantly boosts his value, right? Because he pulls that role off so well. And you could let Finn challenge him. Finn could be the face. If you want to turn Finn heel, you could turn Finn heel and you could put him with what was the club, and you could sit there and have that go on. And I think that would be really interesting and to be another dynamic. There are certain things you can do to incorporate other guys and really help reinvigorate their character, because it just feels like a lot of just milk toast, just dry, bland, the same old same. A lot of Raw in SmackDown tapings is Control C, Control V. It's just copy and paste.
But here's the thing that I would ask you is, how then do you get guys over like Constable? Because Baron Corbin is a legitimate badass, and you got to put him in with some people who have some rub, who have some who are over, and Finn Balor is that. So you give Constable Corbin the opportunity to have some matches to fight Finn Balor, to get some experience from him. So I like it for Baron Corbin, but yeah, you and I both agree and have said it before that Finn Balor deserves a little bit more. But at the same time, it's a business, and you also have to elevate other stars, and there has to be a legitimate mid-card, and that's where I think creative is at, is like they view him as, you know what, Finn Balor's on the upper echelon where he can also be a guy that we put him in with some younger cats and guys that we want to get over too and put him in some programs with them too.
Do you think that maybe us as fans, we just overvalue these guys a little bit too much? Maybe we think that they deserve to be ranked higher than what they are, or be put in a spot much bigger than what they are.
That's the fun of the podcast, is that I think a lot of fans would put Finn Balor maybe even number 2 in the rankings, ahead of a Drew McIntyre, maybe even ahead of a Bobby Lashley. So that's the fun of it, is that you could argue, and I would entertain it fully if somebody came to me and said Finn Balor should move up the rankings. And unfortunately for guys like Finn Balor, his ranking is lower. But it's his job to go out there and have good matches, cut good promos, and get himself up to that point. And he will. That's the thing. We know it's going to happen. We just want to see it because we've seen it already. And I think the thing that you and I are most frustrated with is he lost the belt because of injury and has never really gotten the chance to get it back the right way. And it wasn't done right. But now when he's in a mid-card, it doesn't look right. And with Bobby Roode, you got a character there. You got somebody there, and you haven't shined the light on him just yet. When are they going to do it? Maybe at SummerSlam, maybe going into the fall in Survivor Series. But I do think the light's going to be shined on him. But when you have awful feuds like he's had, you can't be in feuds that tank. When they give you something, they expect you to make it happen, make it pop, get it over. And I think sometimes when you don't, that sets you back.
See, you know what frustrates me is I can sit down and I can watch a New Japan show, and at no point do I feel like anybody is miscast or they're put in a bad role or they're put in a bad spot. You know, like if you watch the way they book out their shows, I'm like, he deserves to be there. He deserves to be there. Yeah, he is the co-main event. He should go first. Okada's going to go second, and he's going to close the show with Omega. Like, it all makes sense to me, and it seems right. When I watch WWE, like, I can make the argument to you that we both agree AJ Styles should probably close down Extreme Rules. but it's not going to happen. He might be the curtain jerk. He might be the first show.
Yeah.
He might be the very first match on the show. Do you know what I'm saying? It seems like WWE miscasts these guys and puts them in bad spots and doesn't put them in the right roles.
Exactly.
You know, it feels a lot of times it's just very misplaced. Two guys who are not misplaced, and I think we both agree, Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins are the best thing on Raw.
By far.
There was a good promo. In the promo, Dolph Ziggler stumbled and flubbed his lines a little bit, but he's a pro, got it right back on track. And Seth Rollins did some comedic work that I think kind of fell a little bit flat.
Exactly.
But it got you to the point where you're like, all right, cool, we're going to have a collision course. It's going to be our main event.
Wasn't it weird, though, because he was trying to make jokes about Drew's heritage,
Yes.
and for a PG show, it kind of got a little... I think he walked a little bit too far past the line.
I think he stepped on the line. I don't really think he walked too far past it, but yes.
Stepped on the line.
When you're talking about having intercourse with sheep, there's a bit of an issue. So I think he walked all over the line. Maybe peed on it a little bit, too. Anyways, I thought they had a great match. Seth Rollins, every night, he is tearing the house down. And Drew McIntyre is one of the biggest, most athletic, real guys on the show. When Drew's in a fight, you suspend reality, and you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm not really watching a wrestling match. He looks like he's really punching that guy. He looks like he's really out there to hurt him. Drew does such a great job conveying the points and telling a story in the ring along with Seth Rollins. This was an absolute incredible main event. It was awesome.
Yes,
and
awesome.
They gave him enough time to tell a story.
Yes.
I applauded it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a good way to shut down a Raw go-home show that did a really bad job kind of telling the story and getting you excited to see what's going to happen this Sunday.
Now, going over to SmackDown, we all wanted to see, okay, going into Extreme Rules, you got to elevate some of these matches. You got to add more heat to things. Unfortunately, it just fell a little bit short in doing that in terms of the fact that did you want to elevate Rusev? Do you want to make it believable that he's a badass contender to AJ Styles? You failed to do that because of the fact that, when you open the show after Miz TV, you have AJ Styles and Nakamura. Rusev comes out, but then it's just a DQ. It didn't do enough for me. Opening the show, Miz TV was very excellent. I feel like Miz knows how to push the buttons. Kane and Daniel Bryan came out, and that the Miz is trying to stir the pot. And of course, it's set up when everybody ran in and everything kind of broke down. You knew that it was going to be a situation where all hell was going to break loose. And it did a good job. Obviously, we all know the setup where you have a promo leads to the matches. It did a decent job, at least, of setting up the night's main event, where you got a 10-man tag with some of the greatest tag teams in SmackDown.
A little bit long, but effective.
Yeah, a little bit long.
But effective.
Now, the part I don't like, okay, this is something I really don't like in wrestling, is when you have AJ Styles and Nakamura, okay, and then you have the interference by Rusev, and you go, oh, let's just have another match, which is a tag team match. No. First and foremost, I don't need to see AJ Styles Nakamura anymore. And it's great. They have great matches, but they botch every finish. Every single finish has been a disappointment.
You don't need the DQs.
No.
The DQs take off the luster of what could be a really... Like, if AJ Styles loses or if Jeff Hardy loses, does it really take any heat away from them?
No.
It's okay, right?
So now you have AJ Styles and Hardy versus Nakamura and Rusev? Really?
Yeah. It just... I don't understand why you got to have the DQ finish and why it's... I don't understand... The DQ frustrates me. There's a time and a place to use a DQ finish.
Not this time, right?
They just use it way too much when it's AJ Styles Nakamura. I don't get it. Doesn't make sense.
A segment I liked the Ellsworth Asuka match with all the women around the ring.
You enjoyed this, huh?
I did. I thought it was fun. A little short, but it's okay with Carmella coming in at the end and handling her business with a super kick.
Did it help further the story for you?
Yeah, because you know that Asuka's going to take on Carmella. I like the gimmick, the way they're using James Ellsworth. It was entertainment. That's what it was. It probably was a little bit short, but in the end, you know Asuka was going to win and take care of business. And then you have Carmella come in and handle her business to try to protect James Ellsworth.
I think it really heals her up a lot.
Yes.
And I think it does help move the story forward.
We had a Cien Almas appearance.
Yeah, there was a sighting.
Yes.
He's there.
Well, because of the injuries and things like that, Sin Cara, we get to see more of it, and you have an opportunity now for them to have this feud. Look, when you watch, Andre Cien Almas, you see a guy that wow, could be elevated quickly into the United States title picture. You see something there. The framework is there for him to make a run, and it's good to see Sin Cara be that guy, first and foremost with a feud that kind of kick him off, and I do like the way they're using Almas right now.
Yeah, we need to see more of him. We need more of this. I could really see this match being the dark match, the pre-show match for this Sunday. More. We need more. None of these little squash matches with local jobbers.
Yep.
I need him actually in the ring, fighting guys, doing what he does, and I need Selena Vega sitting there directing traffic.
The main event was solid. Again, rushed. It was pretty much straightforward. You had Daniel Bryan doing some hard work. The team of Daniel Bryan wins it, and it was a solid main event. It kept my attention. It kept me away from flipping to poker. So I like to see everybody work, and I liked Sanity's work. I liked the Bludgeon Brothers. Everybody in this match had a legitimate role, and I just would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more of it.
Overall, what was your thought on SmackDown this week?
It just fell a little bit short in terms of bumping up everybody's excitement for Extreme Rules. See, a go-home show, the job is to get everybody invested in the matches. Now, am I more invested in the matches? No. I feel like they missed an opportunity to continue to elevate Rusev to the point where you make him believable as a threat to AJ Styles. It just kind of feels like a one-off right now. It feels like AJ Styles is going to go right on to the next feud, and Rusev is going to maybe take the rub off a good match into something else.
It's a little bit of a speed bump.
Speed bump, exactly.
Yeah.
But could it be a situation in which Rusev continues? I feel like this match with AJ Styles is basically going to be meant to elevate Rusev. AJ is going to go on. It's going to be a great match. I think Rusev is going to have a lot of false finishes. He's going to have a lot of chances to win, maybe even puts the clutch in on AJ Styles and AJ gets out of it. And I think that it's one of those matches where Rusev loses, but he comes away as a supreme, gets the rub off of AJ Styles. That's the whole purpose. But in terms of this show, I just think that it didn't do enough to set the scene to excite everybody to watch Extreme Rules, especially for 4 hours.
Yeah. So we have our go-home shows. You've got your Raw, you've got your SmackDown. Which one of these was better this week? Because in my opinion, I think SmackDown was better, but only marginally.
Marginally better, SmackDown's the winner.
And I think coming off of a show last week where SmackDown was really dominant,
right,
it just kind of fell a little bit short this week. But I think it was better than Raw.
Exactly.
So SmackDown takes the lead then, 22-21 over Raw. So Extreme Rules. You want to get into our predictions?
Let's go.
All right. So we'll start off with Braun Strowman versus Kevin Owens. Now, this is a steel cage match. Who you got winning?
Braun Strowman, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's got to be Braun Strowman all day long. I think it's going to be a good match. Kevin Owens is going to do some good work, but I think it's Braun Strowman all day long. Roman Reigns versus Bobby Lashley. We discussed this earlier when we were doing our Raw recap. I think Bobby Lashley needs this more than Roman Reigns. I don't know if WWE is going to let Bobby Lashley get the W, though. I'm going to go with Bobby Lashley, but I think Roman Reigns will probably end up winning.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with Roman Reigns. I think that Bobby Lashley is believable as a badass, but I do think that there has to be something set up going forward. Maybe Roman Reigns versus Drew. You keep it going. I don't think Roman Reigns right now on his quest to get a title or his quest to elevate himself is going to lose to Bobby Lashley.
Yeah. Finn Balor versus Constable Corbin. I can see this going both ways.
This is probably the hardest match to pick. Finn Balor, I think, is an individual that you and I have said is probably being underutilized, but I don't think to the point where he would put over Constable Corbin. Give me Finn Balor.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Finn as well. I could see Constable Corbin winning this, but I'm going to go with Finn Balor just because I think at this point, Finn has lost week after week after week after week, and the way WWE likes to do things is you lose a whole bunch, and then you win the go-home show, and this will be the go-home show. So probably going to be the match of the night.
Yes.
Dolph Ziggler, the Intercontinental Champion, versus Seth Rollins in a 30-minute Iron Man match. Who you got winning this?
Title holder, Dolph Ziggler. It's going to be a great match. Don't miss it. If you can't watch all 4 hours, try to find a way to identify when Dolph Ziggler is fighting Seth Rollins and watch it. Give me Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, I think Dolph Ziggler is going to win it as well. I think they have bigger plans for Seth Rollins, so I don't see him capturing the title. I do see some interference from Drew McIntyre, and that being the reason that Dolph Ziggler ends up eking this out. I think this will be one of those matches where Dolph Ziggler wins it like 3-2, and he gets that third fall with like 3 seconds left. Bludgeon Brothers, who are the SmackDown Tag Team Champions, versus Team Hell No, which, again, Daniel Bryan and Kane.
See, this is tough because on both tag team matches. I do see some title changes, but do I see the Leaders of Worlds losing to the B team? Not really. So that would mean no real title changes. So for me, give me the title change. I think Team Hell No has a little bit more of a run to them. Giving them a belt might, allow for some better angles too with some of the other tag teams. So give me a title change. Take the belt off of the Bludgeon Brothers. Give me Team Hell No.
I think Team Hell No wins this as well. I don't know how you beat Daniel Bryan, especially with the Bludgeon Brothers. Not right now. Not the way things are going. I can see Team Hell No winning, and then you get into a deeper feud with the Bludgeon Brothers, and that sets up for a title change later on, and that sets up for Team Hell No breaking up when Kane and Daniel Bryan go their separate ways. Brings us to our next tag team championship match for the Raw tag team champions, the Leader of Worlds versus the B team.
I can't see the B team winning it. If you want to shock the world, if we're wrong, you would have the B team win it, but I don't see it yet. They're not ready. The Leader of Worlds continue that angle, and I hope that Bray Wyatt can add something to it. But recently, their matches haven't been that good. They've been lowly rated, and I know that they've added intrigue with Matt Hardy continuously losing to Bo, but I would say that give me the Leaders of Worlds to win this.
So I just told you how WWE does it. They lose, and then they win on the go-home show, on the blow-off show.
Right.
And I think that's what we're going to get here. So I think the Leaders of Worlds are going to win as well. Carmella versus Asuka for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think Carmella's going to win this. I think James Ellsworth will play a role in this. So I'm taking Carmella to retain her belt.
Okay, so you'd have Carmella winning. I have Asuka winning, but not to get the title. I think that...
Oh, so DQ?
I see similar to what happened where James Ellsworth comes in and sprays something mysterious in Asuka's face as she's about to win it all. She's close. Asuka's about to take it from Carmella. James Ellsworth standing there and sprays something in Asuka's face and causes Carmella to get DQ'd. Asuka wins, but Carmella keeps the belt.
I gotcha.
Give me Asuka the winner via disqualification.
Okay, so a match that we were talking about a little bit earlier that might actually have some legitimate heat here. Alexa Bliss, the Raw Women's Champion, versus Nia Jax. This is an Extreme Rules match. I think Alexa Bliss is going to retain her title.
Me as well.
And
yep, no doubt about it.
I don't think WWE wants to put the belt back on Nia.
No.
And I think Alexa is a much better champion. I can see Mickie James getting involved in this.
Yep, Alexa Bliss takes it down, and if she's sleeping her way to the top, then she's doing a great job.
Good for whoever's doing whatever to her.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so Jeff Hardy versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the United States Championship.
A perfect opportunity for Shinsuke to take it. Jeff Hardy's a little bit slower. He is a guy that's been dealing with some nicks and bruises here and there. I don't think that he's a guy that can carry a title right now. I think he's more better off with promos and feuds and putting people over. So give me Shinsuke Nakamura to be the United States champion from Japan.
Dude, it
makes perfect sense.
It's like you're in my brain.
It has to be.
And you're just running around and you're picking everything I'm picking.
You can't have Shinsuke lose every single title match. Give him a title.
You absolutely can't. All right, so AJ Styles, this is for the WWE Championship, the belt that probably means the most in this company because the fruit roll-up one is on Brock Lesnar, which is at his farm in Minnesota or wherever the heck he lives now. I've got AJ Styles winning. You taught me a long time ago.
Don't pick against AJ. Don't pick against AJ until we see it. So give me AJ Styles and give me a huge, huge chance for Rusev to get over and be cheered wildly throughout the match. A lot of close finishes, but AJ Styles will steal the show.
All right, so bonus question, all right? This is going to be for a half a point, and this has to do with the length of the pay-per-view.
Right.
So I basically have broken this down into 4 different areas. So the pay-per-view is supposed to be roughly 4 hours, right?
Ooh,
the actual runtime, not the pre-show, but the actual runtime. So your first option is 4 hours to 4 hours 15 minutes for the runtime, 4 hours and 16 minutes to 4 hours and 29 minutes, or 4 hours and 30 minutes to 4 hours and 44 minutes, or 4 hours, 45 minutes. At this point, just kill yourself because this has gone on for way too long.
No, it's going to go probably 4 hours, 12 minutes. So give me, end time around 11:10, 11:12. It's going to be long, but I think you and I both agree it's probably not going to end at 11. Give me a little bit over, so I'm going to go in option number 1.
See, now I thought for sure you were going to go option number 2, and I was going to go de facto option number 1. So I'll just flip it. I'm going to say it's going to just go over 16 minutes. It'll probably be like 4 hours 17, 4 hours 18 minutes long. I'll go with option number 2 then. So with that, we got to recap the counting the card. At this point, Jock leads by a half a point. So if you get the bonus question and you end up winning all this. You take a monstrous lead on me. The score is currently 5 to 4.5. I lead. So this is going to be interesting. We do have I think just the one difference, and that's the Bobby Lashley Roman Reigns match. Otherwise, I think we're pretty much in unison here.
And the Asuka match as well.
Oh, and the Asuka match as well. Yes, correct. So 2 matches, and we've got the bonus. I think it's going to come down to the bonus question. It's going to be interesting to see what happens here. All right, so you want some news and notes?
Hit me with the news and notes, sir.
All right, so tons of injuries going on, not just in WWE, but across the world of wrestling. So let's get you caught up on what's going on in WWE right now. Ruby Riott suffered a left knee injury last week at a house show. An MRI confirmed it was an MCL sprain. It's expected she'll be sidelined for a few weeks due to it. Also, Fandango will have surgery for a torn left labrum in his shoulder. He'll be sidelined for at least 6 months. Now, in a recent house show last Friday, Bobby Roode suffered a minor knee injury in a match with Mojo Rawley. After he was pinned by Mojo Rawley, he was helped to the back by a referee. Wasn't expecting to see him this week on television. Turns out he was there. So again, minor injury, nothing too serious. More injury news. In New Japan, Takahashi suffered a broken neck during his match at this weekend's G1. He finished the match after the botch spot, and then he collapsed in the back. If you go and you watch the video, it's really, really disturbing. He's expected to make a full recovery and to be able to come back, but it was just a botch spot that went horribly awry. Basically, if you imagine laying on your back and taking your knees and putting them up over by your ears. Now imagine getting slammed into that position and landing on your neck. Basically what happened. At the G1, Jim Ross suffered what is supposed to be a broken rib, as well as some issues with his lungs when Jay White and Juice Robinson match spilled over into the announcers area. Jim Ross couldn't get out of the way, got hit. It sounds like he's doing kind of bad. He needs to really be careful here. He's an older guy. He's been prescribed a couple different medications here, and he's under doctor's watch at this time. He's removed himself from 3 events that he had going on in the upcoming weeks to take some time to heal. Speaking of time to heal, Cody Rhodes will be taking some time away to rest up and heal some injuries before All In. It's also believed that he'll be doing something on CW's Arrow with his friend Chris Amell. Chris Amell is in the Bullet Club. He's a sometimes wrestler. He's the guy who plays Arrow on Arrow. So check that out. That's why Cody Rhodes, if you watch the G1, he dyed his hair this week. It's, like I said, expected he's going to be doing something on television. Crossing over into ROH, it has been confirmed ROH stars will face off against Impact stars on a WWE New Japan wrestlers boat. Chris Jericho is hosting his wrestling cruise, and some, if not most of the matches, will feature cross-promotional matches between ROH and Impact. Pretty interesting.
Interesting stuff.
Speaking of a smoke show, I told you earlier, if you remember Caitlyn, the former Divas champion, she is returning to the WWE. I showed you some pictures of her before the show, and I think you thumbs up, right?
Thumbs up.
Definitely.
Right to the top.
She is returning to WWE after a 4-year hiatus. She will participate in the 2nd annual Mae Young Classic, so you'll want to check that out.
Very good. Anything else in news and notes?
That's all I got, man.
Great week, sir. I can't wait to watch Extreme Rules. Next week, we'll get a chance to recap it. Hopefully, I take the lead. Finally scratching and clawing my way up, but a good week of wrestling. Maybe next week we'll also peek into NXT a little bit and see what's going on there and revisit Doc and Jock Stock Watch. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. If any of the predictions you heard you totally disagree with, if you disagree with our takes regarding Finn Balor, if you disagree with our takes regarding Bobby Roode, if you're a huge fan of Brock Lesnar and you have something to say, feel free to message us at Detroit Podcast. You can follow Adam at AdamRSTROZ. Check out our friends at the Breaking Down the Ring podcast. They air live every single Wednesday on the Podcast Detroit Network. And definitely follow our friend Dennis Farrell at Dennis77 Farrell. Great wrestling podcast with the likes of Petey Williams and James Ellsworth himself.
That's right.
The Wrestling Perspective Podcast.com.
That guy's got WWE talent and Impact talent. He's covering all bases. He just needs to get Kenny Omega on. He's set.
Aha. Yes, sir. Dennis does great things, always there. Check out his website and follow him. He's got a lot of great information in the world of wrestling. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I am the Doc, John Macaroon. You've listened to the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast. See everybody next Friday.